Welcome to Westbury Analytics Radio, where ServiceNow performance analytics for senior executives comes alive. Experienced ServiceNow architects, performance management experts, and other executives in your field share insights for how to drive performance management using the power of ServiceNow performance analytics. Performance analytics is a game changer, but it requires a different way of thinking than how most people think about reporting and performance measurement. Our goal here is to help you develop that new way of thinking. I am your host, Pedro Soto. Hichem Guemiri, CEO of HGC Technologies and CMDB expert, shares his insights gleaned from personally working on over 100 service management implementations about why CMDB is foundational for effectively tracking and measuring performance across the IT organization. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Westbury Analytics Talk Radio. Today's special guest is Hichem Guemiri, speaker, author, and CEO at HGC Technologies, which is a ServiceNow elite partner with considerable years of experience in the delivery of projects scaling from 300,000 all the way up to 2.5 million. Hichem also authored the book titled ServiceNow CMDB 201, Awaken Your Service Management from Within, which you can download to your Kindle. Now today, we're going to tap into Hichem's expertise in the area of service asset management and configuration management, which he considers to be foundational processes for an accurate model of the IT infrastructure and for the relationships that exist between components, systems, and services. But first, let's get to know a little bit about Hichem, his journey, how HGC Technologies has become to be a rising star in the ServiceNow ecosystem. Hichem, good afternoon. Tell us, how did it get all started?
Good afternoon, Pedro, and thank you for the introduction. A little bit about me. As most people know, I'm an immigrant from North Africa. I moved to Canada when I was about 18 years old, so that's like 2 years ago. That was another joke. I moved at 18 to Canada. I did my graduate school in Montreal. I've been working in all over the US for the past 15 years, and I have done over 100 service management implementations myself. HGC is an interesting story. I remember 20 years ago when I started working at Bombardier Aerospace, my mentor and my business partner today, Pietro, told me for many years I had to change my attitude to grow up or to go up in the organizations and become a manager and then a director. And my response was that someday I was going to open a company and change the world. We have not changed the world yet, but we did open a successful company. And today, my mentor, Pietro, actually runs HGC with me for the past 2 years. And since he joined me, we went from 4 employees to over 45 people in the team today. And we just became an elite partner, the 3rd elite partner in Canada and the only one in the province of Quebec. And we are very proud about that. Our clients today are mostly in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Houston area, boring places not to go to, I guess, during the hurricane season in Miami, what I'm talking about,
yeah.
Florida. And we service also big corporations in our region, in Montreal and Toronto. So quite an expansion with a few headaches along the way. People call me the CMDB guru. Or the CMDB expert, but in reality, CMDB represents about 10% about what we do at HGC. So we help organizations manage their ServiceNow instance and also operate and evolve the platform. So evolution is an interesting word, especially Pedro, we talked about that. So, about the analytics importance in an organization, and definitely continuous improvement and evolution is key. And the ability to do that is to understand where we are today, and where we want to be. I equate that to losing weight, correct? And which I have been trying to do for years. So every day I go on the scale, I weight myself, and then I'm like, that's it, 5 pounds to lose by next month, and so on. So the key there is that I do know what I am, and I do know what I want to be. But as long as I have not put that plan in place, either not to eat chocolate at night or ice cream, which I love so much, I will never be able to achieve that plan. And it's the same thing with implementing a solution. And it all starts with analytics, and it starts with CMDB, funny to say. So the key there is, in order to understand something, we need to track it. And in order to understand where we want to be, we want to measure. And in order to measure something, we need to track it. So tracking and measurement are the elements to improving one thing in particular. So this is why, as I told you, Pedro, on our initial prep talk, I have spent a lot of time myself also on analytics, and especially business intelligence with SAP back in the day, a few years back. And it's important to track and measure in order to improve anything. And that's what CMDB is all about. So people say, what is CMDB? And I say, CMDB, people say it's the foundational process that helps provide an accurate and logical model of the infrastructure, including business services, the relationship between them, and what an organizations provide. So that, taking that into effect, having the information alone, so it's what's the intent, what's the purpose behind that, correct? So having the information on itself, if I don't have the right measurement around it, if I don't have KPIs around that said information, what is the end purpose? So usually most organizations focus, or they say most CMDB projects fail. I'm not sure what the number is. Some people say 95%, some people 90%. The reason behind it, I believe, it's not the lack of knowledge. It doesn't really matter who is doing it or who the implementer is. I think the idea behind it is that the goal is not identified from the onstart. And that's what any project will fail, especially with CMDB. People, say, I want to discover my inventory, correct? I want to know what I have, and for X reasons. But what is the intent of having such information? So is it to identify the impact of such an incident that's happening? Is it to assess the impact of the change more accurately when it's happening? Is it to manage SLAs and risk? Is it to identify the cost of the services that we are, that we are managing, or proactively address the shortages and the capacity? Or identify root cause of problems so they don't happen again. So the use case in this case is very important. And that's why I see a parallel between CMDB and analytics, because they're one and the same, because that's where the information lives. And in order to understand that information, we have to look at it through proper analytics. And I'm sure you can talk about that, Pedro, more about how do you see it in your case? I know you are the ones asking me questions, but I was
No,
trying
it's
to
okay.
say.
No, but I wanted you said something, what's really important is the intent or the outcome that they seek with their CMDB implementation. And that is very similar to the way to properly implement performance analytics. You know, what are the business outcomes that have to be supported through what you're going to do in your performance analytics? Because we come from a history of operational reporting, which is very unidimensional. It was just get a list or get a report of how things stand today. But with performance analytics, you can bring in so many other dimensions, the context, the trend, do some forecasting, the personas, and that really enables you to support business outcomes. So I was fascinated by you saying that one of the major reasons why CMDB projects fail is because the intent or the outcome is not clear and it's not well defined. You know, is it to really identify cost of services? Is it for SLAs and measuring the risk and all of that? So I was it was fascinating for me to hear you say that, because you've done so many of these, that the intent is important. So that's why you had told me earlier when we were chatting before, is when clients come to you seeking help with their CMDB, what you help them do clear is what they need to do versus what they ask for, correct?
Yeah. So last week we organized a CMDB workshop with ServiceNow in New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey, at Top Golf. Amazing place, where you can go and play golf in the cold, even in winter. I'm not a golf player myself. As you remember, when I started, I mentioned my mentor and business partner, Pietro, who is a very good golf player. And 20 years ago, when he hired me at 22 years old, so I guess you figured that I'm 42 today, if you're good at math. So he took me, I guess he wanted me to go up in the organization and become a manager or something. So he took me to play golf, and he said, all the Ds are made on the golf course. And we went to, it was winter, I remember, and we went to shoot, how do you call it? The ball, the golf ball, or I'm not sure what you call it. The small golf ball. And I couldn't hit it. And I got so frustrated that I actually never touched
again.
Is it a club? A club?
Yeah.
So I never touched a club in my life again until last week. But the thing is, golf is not for me. So don't hire me to teach you to play.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Golf's not for me either.
Well, you're Latin like me in the previous life, Pedro. So we're all about salsa dancing, correct? The idea. So last week we had over 150 people attending the workshop, and it was interesting because we asked people around how many are using the CMDB dashboards in ServiceNow. As you know, ServiceNow has cool features around analytics and performance analytics and reports out of the bat. I guess out of the box, interesting features. And they have a nice feature around CMDB for the dashboards. And only 5 people raised their hands.
Wow.
And so it's interesting that companies spend so much energy and so much time sometimes just to get an inventory, or just to, let's say, most of them, I want to do discovery. I want to discover the word. But CMDB is not discovery. CMDB is the information that you intend to use. So it's all about a 3 dimensions approach that I have developed over the years. And I should patent it probably. Which I call scope, span, and methods. So a method is how you populate the CMDB. So for example, I'm trying to make the parallel here with reporting and analytics. So the method would be, how do you generate a report, correct?
Yep.
So how do you generate, that's the method of generating the report. So if it's like someone saying, I want this method. So but the idea in the end is, or in the beginning is defining the scope. Okay, so what is the scope of the work? So what's my intention here? What's my vision? And what's my mission? So vision identifies the why. Why are we doing this? And what is the end goal? The mission and this defines the what. What can we deliver? What will be delivered? And what are the high level functionalities or user stories, ServiceNow folks understand user stories, that will be delivered part of this intention. And it's not discovery. Discovery is the method it's the how this will be met.
Yes.
Right? And that can be an integration, can be different things. So joking aside, and I'll make a good joke here. I'm not sure if it's good. I always make it, I believe that my jokes are good, but they don't always work. So when I discuss scope, I say it's like, because most people, I guess, compare CMDB to death, I guess, to failure, correct? So I always make a joke and say, when you define your scope, you're defining how large are you going to dig your grave, correct? When you start the CMDB project. So how large are you going to dig that hole, correct? That grave. And then you identify the span. The span is how deep you want to go, correct? So if I say my scope, I want to understand, for example, my data center X that's in New York, because I'm moving. So here I'm putting the because, correct? Because I have to move my data center to the cloud within the next 3 months. Therefore, I need to understand what I have, which applications are running, what are the business lines that I'm delivering, services to, so I can move that to the cloud. And that's something that most people are doing today. So that's a good use case, correct? So so in this case, the span is how deep I want to go. So how deep you want to dig that grave, correct? And then the method is, in this case, discovery. So I'm going third. I'm not going first. I'm going scope, span, and method. The method is, in this case, I make the analogy and say, so I decided how big. So I'm a big guy, so obviously the scope is going to be big, correct? And the span is, I like to go deep. So I guess in very deep in the details. I'm a detailed guy. So, the span is detailed, but that's the recipe for disaster when we do a CMDB project. And I guess that's the same thing with reports. People say, I want to have 50 dashboards. And I'm like, no, you want to have one dashboard. Maybe let's define one. Let's define two. Let's define three. I'm sure you go with that, the same way. So, and then not 50 dashboards, maybe one or two to start. So the method is, which method you're going to use? Are you going to use a shovel to dig that grave? Are you to your own grave in this case? Are you going to use a machine, heavy machinery? Or are you going by hand? So discovery is the method by which you want to, define and implement that scope and span that you have defined on paper, correct? So it's very important to establish the why, the what, the how, the who, and the when. So the why defines the vision. The what defines your mission. The how defines your strategy that you are going about it. And the who, obviously, who is going to be impacted, who's going to manage the information, who's going to be your current or future users, who's going to contribute. And then the when, you're running a project or you're running initiatives, when is this supposed to happen? Or when is this activity supposed to happen? And this approach, it's usually the same approach that you do in anything that you endeavor. So that's the way we go about it, So
excellent. Yeah, what you're speaking about is you have a framework. You have a framework that you thought through very well based on experience, so that you can actually be effective when people come to you and they actually do a CMDB, which is what we've done in the area of performance analytics. Instead of just showing up and spitting out dashboards and content and widgets and all that, we actually have a framework that's already taken into account all the thought processes and help clients who have over 600 KPIs out of the box in ServiceNow actually use just a handful, because it really is just a handful that they need to cover some very strategic ground from an operational and a strategic and a mid-layer management perspective. So that's awesome, because you've also created a framework in your scope, span, and method. That's really awesome. Hichem, I wanna ask you, this is a tough question. So
Sure.
as you said, a lot of CMDB projects fail. A lot of performance analytics projects fail when folks just go at them on their own. And a lot of companies, or a good number of companies, don't really have an effective CMDB process. Many companies don't have an effective performance management process. What would you, based on your experience, based on your years of being out there on the field, what would you say are top reasons for that?
I think the top reason is defining the why. I think most organizations focus too much, and we are at fault too as technical people, what I call the Silicon Valley syndrome, correct?
Yeah.
We're always thinking, I used to call it the God syndrome. You are the admin of a solution, someone doesn't say hello in an elevator and you go, no more access for you, I used to do that 20 years ago. So, if someone doesn't say hello, you're like, that's it, no more access for you. But, the Silicon Valley syndrome is, you can also call it the next iPhone syndrome. Basically, we always want the next thing. We want to have the biggest projects. So we approach things from a technical aspect, and we're like, I want to do a CMDB project. I want to do, this type of project. But in reality, we are doing business projects for the business. We're not doing. I used to work at Bombardier Aerospace, and I remember when I started, we were really advanced at the time, 20 years ago, and the key aspect was we are not an IT company. We are a plane company. We make planes. So it doesn't really matter. And I think that's the mistake, most organizations make. They buy technology without thinking about the end goal. And it's funny with reporting. One thing, we have over 50 global clients at HGC. We're really, happy about that and proud, and we work hard every day, and we are blessed, by God about that. And the thing is, in every time, I swear, every time we are asked to do a project, there's two things that are always missing from the client. They never, give or ask for enough time for two things. Number one, training. Number two, reports. And it's interesting how the most two important things in any project is not putting the technology in place. It's training, you're making sure that people are going to use it, and making sure that you are going to, like I said in the beginning, record, track, and measure. And it's funny that people don't focus on that. And you'll be surprised how many code, CMDB projects or discovery projects are being completed without not even having a configuration process in place, and not even having one report that shows the inventory in this case. If you just look at the basic, correct? Or, how is this information now helping me to speed up the resolution of incidents? Am I closing more incidents on the first call? How many, it can be as simple as doing KPIs on how many tickets are being auto-assigned on the first call. How many tickets have been reassigned throughout the life cycle? How many are being resolved? How many of those incidents keep happening, and how many problems have I attached? How many incidents are causing, have been caused by changes that were open or not open, and how many incidents I have opened to resolve a said incident or change? So that's the key. So it's all about planning, proper planning, define the purpose, the why, the objective, the what, and the context, the how. Number two, identification, of those things. So planning, identify, build a good plan to implement and construct, build good controls around it in order to evolve. So understand what I am today, as I mentioned before with my weight thing. So if I'm at, I don't know, let's say 200 pounds, and I want to be at 150, which I'll never be, that's a big dream. How do I go about it? Same, New Year's is coming up, so I guess I have to make new resolutions. And then audit, and that's where, analytics goes hand in hand with having the information in place. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Hichem, we're coming here at the top of our time. Want to thank you so much. You've shared some really valuable insights. Folks really have to think about those things like training and reports, because once the technology is implemented, that's where they're really going to get additional value from it. And so on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. And I want to just leave it for a few more minutes for you to tell us before we sign off where they can find you, look you up if they want to connect with you, and share anything exciting on the horizon for you and your company that you'd like to share with them.
Thanks, Pedro. Muchas gracias. Really appreciate, you taking the time as well, to invite me. And thanks, Robert, for introducing us. Robert Fedoruk is the best.
Yeah.
And, I would like to thank him for introducing us. And I really had the blast, and maybe in the future I should prepare more. But I do like to talk, and sorry about that. I started speaking at 4.5 years old, and I never stopped, I guess, since then.
That was fine. You shared valuable things. So
yeah, but I think you have to make work fun. And one thing for sure, we at HGC, we like to make work a fun time. And it's very important we are blessed. And I think maybe I can speak on your behalf as well. I think we are blessed to be able to work in our passion. I'm definitely passionate about what I do. And I believe, Pedro, same for you about, analytics and numbers and KPIs. So we are, blessed in that regard. And we are blessed at HGC. We are working on so many great things. The thing is that we have a book, we have a few books that I published over the years. And most people don't know about this, but when I moved to Canada at 18, I was actually going into cinema. So I was studying cinema at the time. Yeah,
wow.
To become a screenwriter. And I guess now I write boring CMDB books that put you out to sleep. But one thing we're working on at HGC is turning the book into a practical application. We have developed multiple widgets over the years that we are packaging and will be releasing a CMDB add-on or a CMDB easy to implement, or a companionship book, or to how to speed up the CMDB implementation by Knowledge 2020. And I hope to see all of you guys for Knowledge 2020.
That's awesome.
The inscriptions, I guess the registration is out, and it's in Orlando. I guess it's in your backyard. Maybe I should practice some golf between now and then. But we're definitely looking forward to Knowledge. We are working on a CMDB application at HGC. We are always looking to improve the way we deliver services at a good cost. And try to bring what I call the French touch to the way we do services with an American flair. That's what we do. And that's it. I mean,
awesome.
If you guys
where can
want
people look you up, Hichem?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, definitely on LinkedIn, I have over 16,000 connections. So I'll accept your invites, shoot me on LinkedIn. Also, our website is wearehgc.com. So WEAREHGC. So wearehgc.com. It was not my idea. It's actually my wife's idea to name our site something not boring, such as HGC Technologies. So wearehgc.com. That's the website. And you want to send us a quick email, info@wearehgc.com. So that's info@wearehgc.com. And
all right, awesome.
Sorry, guys, about my accent. I guess my French accents can be a bit tough sometimes. You can also reach me direct. So I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And thank you, Pedro, once again for inviting me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming on board, and everybody, wish you a great time till next time we speak.
Yeah, and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to the folks listening to Pedro. And Pedro, I'm looking forward to be re-invited at your 150 podcast.
Thanks. Definitely will, Hichem. Bye-bye, everybody.
We see a time when all business leaders using ServiceNow Performance Analytics will easily know how to leverage its power to help them reach their business goals. Performance Analytics offers you a way to do that. To discover how you can get there faster, send us an email to info@westburyanalytics.com.